everybody, welcome to the Games Industry Executive Summary. This is Casey, and with us today we have the spectacular Manu Rosier back in his office with his amazing Lego collection.
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually building Baradu right now.
Ooh, that's Dungeons and Dragons, right? Or no? Did I butcher that? Or is that
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings? Okay. Is that the eye thing? The big tower? Okay. Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. I know. Yes.
Where do you put all that stuff?
Where I find space. I mean,
Okay.
I have the chance to be able to choose my decoration myself. So I still have some space left. Yeah, but it's a challenge. Yes.
Okay, but speaking of, like, are you getting or have you gotten the Dungeons and Dragons one?
No, you have to make choices, right? But I have the Fortnite bus.
Oh, you have the Fortnite bus. They've been investing a lot more in Fortnite these days, right?
Yes. I mean, Lego has been licensing a lot of video games lately. I think there is Sony, there is Mario, there's been Overwatch in the past. Not Apex, but Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Horizon. Zelda also. So that's.
Oh, yeah, I saw that at Gamescom last year.
And then everything Nintendo basically. Yes, now they have.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah, this is I mean, Sonic they've been doing as well. I wonder if this is like, do you think it's a bit, what is it called when you're oversaturating maybe the market with, like, will people buy this stuff across so many different brands? I feel like it's hard to manage maybe so many different types and brands, and like you go to the Lego store as an example.
Well,
And
it's the more you have in your catalog, as long as you make it easy to discover, right? Like the discoverability is very important. But then you gather to a different type of people that are fan of video games or fan of just music instrument. Or I don't see a reason not to offer many different world within that can be built in Lego, right? I think the constraint are the logistics, or you need to reach a minimum threshold of sets that you sell in a specific collection, otherwise it's not worth the marketing and the development and things like that. But I don't think Lego expect anyone anymore to buy every single Lego set, right? This is just impossible on so many levels that people have to make choice. And I think maybe the challenge for the older collector people is like, now they have to make choices. They cannot everything.
I'm with you on that, and that's kind of like what's almost stopping me from, like, going all out and buying more and more. You have to be more selective with what you buy. Awesome. So yeah, today is just me and you. And I thought, and there's a lot of cool topics on the newsletter this week. A lot of things that are, pull back on the Metaverse stuff. There's like a bit of Ubisoft stuff. And do you want me to just jump in?
Yes, let's go.
Let's go. Okay, then. Looking at the highlights, the number one item on the list: Marvel Rivals U.S. support studio hit with layoffs. A bit sad to hear about that specific. Why do you have that in the highlights? Because if I know you correctly, you would probably have this type of thing in the trends.
Because it's been the news of the week when you go to not Twitter but LinkedIn and just Reddit. It's been like the big thing, and it's not the first time that a team is being laid off. I think what is interesting is, of course, everybody has an opinion, so it is gonna be my context more than an opinion. It's a US based team working on a game developed by NetEase, by a non-US company. The game is very successful. So the first reaction you would have is like, the game is so successful, why are they firing people, right? So that's the first question. If the game is dying, then it's normal that studios are closing. But when things are going well, you're wondering why they are doing that. Then what does it mean? Is it a political change? Is it like they are moving back all the operation or in China, and they don't
Yeah.
want the teams in the US anymore. There are other rumors that NetEase might be pulling back all investment outside of their country. So maybe it is the first of a series of layoffs. We don't know yet. And what does that mean for the game? Is there any chance that a boycott would happen? Because the game, despite being an American IP, might be associated with a Chinese developer. And that's why I say, is it going to be political? Because of the tension you have between the two countries. And we live in the video game world where we just want the best games from anywhere. But there are some realities in the world that are, and it comes back to the discussion we had a few weeks ago about the top 6 games from China were in the top 10 or top 20. And maybe it has no impact, right? Maybe everything will be fine. But you always have to wonder how much can a publisher do that kind of stuff without having like a backlash from the audience. It's very easy for players to go back to Overwatch if they want. It's like if they want to consume American, they can quickly go back to Overwatch. Let's see what happens, but I think I put it there because everybody is talking about it, and there's always different level of people being offended or upset.
Yep.
I'm a bit more pragmatic. I think there is always an explanation, but I wonder what will be the consequences coming from the players and just for the industry in general. Yes.
I mean, we did discuss this, I think, a couple weeks back about there is a shift happening, and specifically, Chinese studios being able to put out these amazing, high quality titles. And it does feel like maybe there is truth to both sides of it's an economic question. Maybe, I mean, having people in the US, if this studio was in the West Coast, it's going to be really expensive, I assume, to run. Maybe it's a confidence thing as well. Maybe, do you think? Like, yeah,
maybe it's a shift in the life cycle of the title. So the game has been released, so you need maybe a team that would work more on the live service part and not so much on the building of the game. Yeah. There are many possible reasons, and I don't want to. I just want to list them rather than being too opinionated.
Something that we didn't mention. What's the name of the studio that they are? But they're doing layoffs. They're not shutting down the entire studio. This is my understanding.
Yeah, it's a team, right? They're talking about a team, and it's a few people. But for me, when I saw it, really blew up on Reddit and on LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, we cannot avoid that one. That's at least.
Yeah. It seems like what I'm seeing is it's a NetEase studio or NetEase games in the US, maybe. Okay, it's not like another studio with a different.
No, it's just part of the yes.
Okay, well that's sad to hear because things are going well for that game. It's a top 5 game on Steam at least. Maybe it's the same. Yeah. Okay, let's move over to the next highlight on the list then. This is this I already predicted, and I already think this is the case right now. I don't think we need to go to the next title, but I'll get your thoughts about that. So Rockstar Games talks with top Metaverse creators with an eye on making Grand Theft Auto the next creator platform. In other words, a Metaverse.
I don't really know why they write Metaverse creator. They are just creators, right? They are probably the ones that are doing the Roblox experience and the Fortnite creative experience. I don't think everybody should be called out a Metaverse. I think the idea is just that they want to make sure the players stay engaged within the ecosystem. I prefer ecosystem than Metaverse in that case, right? The GTA ecosystem, they want to offer more content to their players, and part of that will be user-generated content. So that's the idea. Because they've noticed how many million people are playing every single month within the ecosystem of either Fortnite or Roblox or both. So I think GTA is one of the best IP position to also be there.
It's funny. This is almost like full circle. So if you go to the top 10 list again on Steam, and the top 2 games, Dota and Counter-Strike, are mods of mods or so. And then now we're like, we went from this point of view of like these big publishers and games being super opposed that people are modifying their games to now embracing it because they see the shift, and the capabilities and abilities of these creators who can add a lot of value to these games. I will add, for me, it's a platform. I mean, that's a word that we can use as well. But I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's smart. It's a smart move, right? I think whenever I discuss with people that are interested in investing in the video game industry, right? I always say, look at what creators are doing. Look at the modding scene, because the next gameplay innovation already exists. Probably it's not mass market yet.
I'm with you on that one. And I do think that a lot of people. I mean, we all know, when we discussed this last week, I believe. The one of the former directors or founders of Rockstar is making his own platform, right? Which is everywhere, and it does feel like, okay, hey, we need to maybe adjust here a bit and make it. GTA 5 has a lot of content, and majority of it is made by them, right? They haven't opened up.
I mean, yes, online, GTA Online. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think there are probably some mods, but nothing is really official or monetized neither. So, yes, but it's generated by Rockstar. It's certainly on console.
Do you think this will have any impact on other platforms? In other words, Fortnite, Roblox?
Well, this is a competitor for them, right? Everybody is gonna be a competitor with GTA whenever it's launched, and I think um, it's already the case. Let's put it that way. I'm not sure GTA will come and do a battle royale, right? You can imagine that they have the map, they could do battle royale. Probably technically it's not possible because they are going to next level of visual fidelity. Yeah, everything is possible, but I think GTA is the only one probably that can get some space between Roblox and my and Fortnite at this point. Yes.
I feel like we will be sitting here in like half a year or so and saying, "Oh, look at this game lost X amount of people. Look at this game."
Yes. Well, I mean, we will be at Newzone. We will be the first to see that, right? To
Okay.
see these trends. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm looking forward to these reports then. Okay, then let's move over to the news then. And we spoke about a potential Rainbow Six Siege 2. Now, Ubisoft announces Rainbow Six Siege X, the biggest transformation in the game's history. What can we learn here?
I think it is. I'm passionate about this topic. It's all about all these live service title, everlasting live service title. How do they stay relevant, right? With the audience evolving, with the competition evolving, the platform, the technology, everything evolving, and I think even Counter-Strike had to release a Counter-Strike 2, right?
Yep.
So all of them will need to do that at some point. I think Rainbow Six Siege is, I don't know, 7, 8 year old, 10 maybe. I don't know precisely, but it's getting old. So you're like, if you want to grow your audience at some point, you have to come with something different without causing too much trouble for your existing audience, for your veterans. But I think all game at some point has to reinvent itself. I think there is no other choice if you want to be relevant. So this can happen by refreshing your own game. This can happen by launching a number 2 like Overwatch did. This can happen by doing resetting like Warcraft Classic or the Warcraft Classic. There are different ways to do that and to stay relevant. But I think at some point there is this fatigue, like Fortnite did with OG also, right? They brought back content. And I will talk about nostalgia very soon when it comes to like recursive nostalgia. So nostalgia about yourself. This is a topic I will share in a few weeks. Yes.
Do you feel like this is a planned thing that was like part of a grander strategy, or do you think this is like we need to pull something out of the hat? What can we do?
Well, I mean, if you publish this game and you see an erosion of your revenue and your engagement, you're like, okay, what can I do? Can I do another season number 25, or do I just like reset, refresh, reboot, remake, and do something about it to become more relevant again? That's just the choice of every studio. Destiny became Destiny 2. They became free to play. Um, there's an evolution because there is a point where you can't milk your audience anymore, or not enough. So
Yeah,
either you launch a different game or you try to do something with the existing game and your existing audience.
makes a lot of sense. I also remember there was supposed to be a Destiny 3, but I think that was like it was supposed to be a 10-year plan for the
Yeah,
entire franchise.
I think you see that more often. It's like there is a game, then there is a number two, and then at some point it becomes no number. Like Hitman. Hitman is a very good. I really like the story of the Hitman franchise. It started with 1, 2, 3, then remake, reboot 1, 2, 3, and then it became World of Assassination. And now it's more like a live service type of game, like you as you like them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I'll move over to the next item on the news. 5 things we learned from PlayStation's best holiday ever. So, my understanding is Sony console is on the march despite missing big first-party exclusives. Okay, but my understanding is like they're hitting some records with sales on the PlayStation 5. Is that what I'm learning here?
I think there is this story across the market somehow that consoles are not doing that well or like lagging behind the previous generation. I think Sony is not lagging behind. I think Xbox is lagging behind and it's causing the sum of the two to be lagging behind. But I think PlayStation is actually soaring right now. And it doesn't mean the success of the PlayStation doesn't mean that the total market and addressable audience is increasing. It's just showing even more where the market share is going, and it's going to PlayStation. I think this is even more obvious now. But still, it's good news for the industry that you still have a platform that's doing very well. I think that's more something we need to celebrate as being we are agnostic, right? We are platform agnostic as we come in the industry. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think this is good in general that more players have access to a PlayStation and can play different type of games. PlayStation 5.
do we feel like they are expensive, or are they set at a good price? I think they're like, what is it, $600,
The
$700?
console,
Yeah,
I think what something I did a few months ago is look at the evolution of the pricing of the console. And this is the first generation where the pricing is basically increasing with the life cycle of the console. So if you look at the previous one, was just always going down like 5100, and then you would have the slim version and then the non-down version without disk drive and things like that. But here it has been the opposite. And on
yeah,
top of that, you still have the PlayStation 5 Pro at $800 or €800. So I think the price is fine in the world we are living in because there has been inflation anyway, right? I think if you look at like in real price, it's not that much compared to PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. I think it's fine. I don't think there is that much debate anymore. But what will happen in the next generation if Xbox give up even more on the hardware side? Like what Sony? I think Sony, they are smart enough to see what revenue they generate once a player is in their ecosystem, and it would not make sense to raise the entry barrier just for the sake of making more margin on the hardware. I think let the people come in, play live service, spend money, and just be break even with your hardware is probably enough at this point.
absolutely. Um, Back in the day, I think the mass market price point was like 150 to $200. Now I'm talking PlayStation 2 era, or maybe even PlayStation 3 era. But what is that today? What would
What do
that be?
you mean by that?
I mean, like, so the console launches, I think it was like a PlayStation 2 probably was like maximum $300, $250.
Okay. Yeah.
But the mass market, like as in the breaking point where you'd see a bigger audience jump in, it used to be like $150 ish.
Okay. Yeah, I
Uh,
see. I see.
do
I
we
think
see
in
that?
the previous generation there they sold some Xbox very cheap, right? The Xbox One, I think you could find that for $150 or something. We are not there yet this generation, and I'm not sure they really need to neither. Right? I think if when you see, so there's been the release of the new NVIDIA graphic card, and you have to put $1,000 minimum for just a graphic card on a PC, right? You're like a $500 console is fine. You know, it's $500 console when you see the price of an iPhone, when you see the price of so many electronic goods, you're like, wow, that's not that much actually. You unmute. You unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Manu. I was saying I'm on the Wikipedia page of the PlayStation 2 here. I love that some people put the equivalency of original cost price versus today. And here it says $299 was the original price, equivalent to $530 in 2023. So in today's standards, that means consoles almost cost the same ish. Okay, that's fair.
And that's one of the problem of our industry, right? When you look at the price of the games, that would be even it would be more expensive in the past than they are now. So, yes, that's the
That's why
challenge.
I'm pushing for these higher prices, man. I'm pushing for GTA 6 for $100, but nobody wants to listen. Okay, let's move over to the next item, which is how Monster Hunter now claimed 225 million in its first year through innovation, inclusion, and evolving monetization. So, can you be kind and tell us what is the magic here that we need to learn about?
I don't really play that game, but I think it's similar to a Pokemon Go type of game. So it's really based on your location, and then you will hunt these monster. But I think we don't often cover that much about mobile games. But when there is a success, I think it's interesting to just highlight it. So I don't have that much to say, but I think it's important enough for the readers to understand what's happening.
I completely I thought Niantic was Japanese, but it's interesting that this is the same studio that has been working on all these games. Looking at their history as well, so
And
Monster
they
Hunter
might
now,
become
Pokemon Go.
so.
Oh, really? Who are they owned by? Today, are they independent today or?
Yeah, it's in the rumors.
Okay, well let's
Yep,
look at that.
American software. I'm just checking their headquarters on the Google. Parent is Google.
Really? I thought Google, shut down everything related to games. But here's the rumor. Pokemon Go maker Niantic is reportedly selling its games rather division. Potentially.
It was a startup. It was a startup.
Okay.
Google it is being restricted under Alphabet.
No, I see. So it is part of Google group, so to say. But there is so this rumor is saying that reportedly.
They split in 2015. So I think they are on there. They've been funded by different other companies, but I think they are their own leader. And there are rumors that they would be bought by they would be for sale and bought by Savvy.
Scopely, apparently.
Oh yes, sorry, Scopely.
Which is, a Savvy, more or less. That's interesting.
Just a rumor.
Yep. Okay. I'll move over to the next news item. Nexon posts record-breaking revenue in 2024, despite the first Descendant performing below expectations.
Yeah, I think there are two news there. Just that the first Descendant is not doing that well, and I think we had noticed the start was good. There was a lot of noise about it, but it probably lost steam quite quickly. Couldn't keep the players engaged. So that's one information. And the other information that Nexon is doing well without that, without one of their flagship new titles. And I think there is another piece of news about another company where their new mobile game was not doing that well, but it was not so much of a problem because the rest of the portfolio was doing well. I think there are some really bigger publishers like this. They have so many feet to stand on than if one is not doing well. That's not so much of a big deal. they are becoming like octopuses. You know, they have so many legs they can use that at the end it's they can test things, right? Also, that I think the story here is that while they can keep on innovating or testing new concept, they life don't depend on the success of one game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for Nexon. I mean, when you look at their portfolio, it's all over the place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This one I actually discovered yesterday, which was very interesting. Like Counter-Strike Nexon, I knew back in the day there was like a specific Korean Counter-Strike
Yeah.
that was only played there.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was very surprised to see
Yeah.
that this thing exists still to this day.
Well,
Um,
I mean, yes, it still exists, but 20, I mean, the graphics are from 10 years ago. I'm
yeah.
not sure it's very popular. Yeah.
No, this is 1.6 almost.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was released in 2014, right?
Yeah, yep, yep. Okay. Moving over to the trends then. So, Monster Hunter. Speaking of Monster Hunter, the lead producer on Monster Hunter agrees PC gaming is key for Japanese games. There are more players than ever playing on PC, including in Japan. I mean, the PC. I think we discussed this before about like maybe if you make a game today, or maybe not with you, but with some other people, but if you're making a game today as a studio, um, previously it would be valid to say maybe release it on other platforms. You might find an audience there where you would not find it on PC. But
Yeah.
now it feels like if you don't find your audience on PC, you probably most likely will not find it on console.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In that sense, yes. Um, there are some games really still typical to PC because of the interface, because of the controller or the mouse or keyboard. There are some games that don't really fit well on a console, but I don't think there are any console game that don't fit well on a PC anymore, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think games were console game were based on couch play. They don't exist anymore that much because you can do virtual couch play with internet, right? You can play with friends without being in the same room or the same living room. And yeah, but I think your statement is correct. And I think there's been a revelation in Japan around the time of the pandemic that there was actually a bigger PC market than what was expected. Just to be clear, this is still a small country for PC when you look at global numbers, but it's a growing part of the landscape in Japan. And I think when many of the Japanese publishers they first look at their own territory to make revenue, well now they realize, wow, okay, actually, I can also have a lot of Japanese player playing on PC for my game, so I should be very uh, attentive to the quality of my release on PC.
Here is something I would like to share, which is interesting to me because I feel like in many ways Xbox made that possible by just like the easiness of their controller, like working out of the box. And now obviously PlayStation has done the same. But this old article from June last year, Steam players' use of controllers has tripled since 2018,
Mhm.
which I feel like okay. I mean, this makes a lot of sense, especially considering what you just said. Um, Okay, I'll move over to the next item then. Nearly half of Steam's users are still using Windows 10. So, Manu, why do we need to care about this?
Well, because the Windows 10 is going to be discontinued, right? The support is going to be discontinued.
Yeah,
So this could be a problem, yes, for a while. It almost feel like it's a bit early, but it is what it is. So yeah, let's see what happens. They drop 7, 8, now 10. I don't think it will be a big issue somehow, but maybe positive for Microsoft. We will be forcing players to update, right? I think there is no alternative for the player, right? Unless they switch to Linux
I
for
was
some
just
reason.
about to say Linux.
Yeah.
But I mean, my understanding is that Windows 11 you need a specific hardware for that to work. There was something relate to
No,
hardware?
it's 12. It's a 12. I don't think it's the 11.
Wait a second. Are we in Windows? What? Now I'm confused. Which Windows do I have? Let me see here. If I make a quick search.
No, we're in 11 still. Huh. Yes. Okay, all right. Right.
So
I'm always looking forward.
it's all good. But I think going to Windows 11, there is some specific, like there's something on the chips or something like on the motherboards. I forgot which one it was, but it required you to have that thing. Otherwise, you can't use Windows 11. And I'm thinking about all the people. Let's say you bought a PC in 2017 to play PUBG. That's, by the way, that's me. And the only thing I really need to upgrade at this point, because I have a 2070, which runs pretty good. I mean, I don't need to necessarily change it. But if I do want to play games at a better frame rate today, I probably just need to jump to like a 3080 or like a 4070 or something like that. And I don't necessarily need to change the entire hardware that I have. I feel like, and
Yeah,
so
and yeah, there was something I think yeah, I'm curious to see what will happen. And if there might be, even if it's not supported, you can probably still run it, right? I'm sure there are still people running with older version of Windows. I think there will maybe workaround will come. So
okay.
let's see if it has a bigger impact or not.
Then okay, I'll move over to the next item. This is coming from a person I personally like. Japan studios closed because the double A market has disappeared, says Shuhei Yoshida. Now, Shuhei used to be, I think, a VP at Sony, PlayStation, now retired, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And he's saying that the market became really difficult. I mean, what are your feelings about double A? And before we like talk about double A specifically, what do we define double A as?
Yeah, that's difficult to say, right? Is a Yakuza a double A game or a triple A game, for example? Like a Dragon and things like that. So some of this game is a Mortal Kombat a double A or a triple A game. I just in general I like when execs they retire because then they can really say what they want to say.
They can say
anymore. And usually there are some hard truths coming from their mouth. It's Palworld and double A game. Is it even a double? Is Eldivers is probably a double A game, right? I would say. But is it because I think it's $40, so it's the price? Like triple A is 60 and then double A is 40. I don't know. Is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Is it a double A or a triple A?
Yeah. I mean that's why I'm questioning this thing. But is it a budget thing? Because we know that maybe visuals don't really matter as much anymore.
They are very easy to. It's much easier than before to reach a certain level of visual fidelity. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I think the point is, does it really matter? Who cares if it's a triple A or double A or I think the idea is it's more difficult to develop games that are within a certain budget. I think development budget, maybe things under 50 million, between 10 and 50 million, but it's not really clear. So maybe it's more that, maybe it's easier to either do your very small game or to have your big blockbuster. Because I think probably some investors, they are gambling, right? They just want the big success and they will put the money to get the big success. So maybe that what it disappears like these smaller bets, that's possible.
So here's like a funny thing. I mean, Uncharted 2, I always go back to that game because it was in many ways the pinnacle of AAA in the former generations of consoles. But Uncharted 2 budget is known to have been 20 million compared to the 400 million Concord apparently blew. This is crazy. I mean, so it feels like maybe if we let's disregard these labels. There are games. Obviously, there's like these smaller indie games that maybe cost between 100,000 to $1 million. Let's say.
Yeah.
And then you have the because everything else is just like, it's not random, but it's like very it's a very big difference between them. But let's say at the higher end, when you're looking at AAA today, it's the Assassin's Creeds, the Far Cries, the GTAs, but those are not like, those are quadruple at this point. Like those are like plus 100 million minimum, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't really have a. It's always the same question. How do we define AA, AAA, indie?
Yep.
Like, I think it's just one way to see it, but it's not that much you can do with that information anyway. It's almost like a AAA is a self-proclaimed label, right? Like
Absolutely.
and I think a lot is going through the marketing and the branding of your game, right? This game feels like a AAA because it has a huge marketing campaign. This felt like a AA because it's only have like 5 or 10 million for marketing, So that's also part of the marketing of the branding is really what defines the number of A you have in your title.
That is a really good point, by the way. I'll move over to the second item here that also mentions Sony, just so we take it in the same. From Software didn't want Sony to publish Dark Souls as it was disappointed by how Demon Souls was treated. That is very interesting.
That's a piece of history. That what happened, because we are talking about the first Demon Soul. We are not talking about the remake, right?
Yes. I actually have both the American version of Demon Souls and the European one. And the European one was published by Bandai because Sony didn't want to bring it. I have to preface, by the way, just to give Sony props. Back in the day, Sony had 3 different publishing teams: Europe, US, and Japan. And they talked to each other, obviously, but they made their own decisions on what games they bring and not bring. And Demon Souls was one of those games that did not make it to Europe through Sony, but Bandai Namco brought it to Europe.
I mean, that makes sense back then because it was very physical, right?
Absolutely.
The same way that would you decide to localize your box or not, or your audio or your text in the game. This is just a history. I think the circle is complete because obviously now they are working closer with Sony again. And they are not gonna go through Bandai anymore, I believe. But I'm not sure actually. But I know From Software as the parent company of From Software is now, the share of Sony has increased in that company. So
absolutely
do the publishing of that.
I mean, we have to give props again to like Shuhei, because he played a huge role, I think, as a mediator, as a diplomat, I guess, between companies to bridge these gaps. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get like a game like Bloodborne or such.
Yeah, absolutely. You just missed one just above.
No, I did not. I intentionally skipped that one, but I will talk about it now.
Okay.
Because it was Shuhei was in both. That's fine. But I'll move over to this one. Absolutely.
But I just say that I like when execs, that all I like retired exec, they get interviewed because you get some feedback. I think it's very interesting for whoever wants to enter the video game industry and think you just need money to do that, or you just need to have talent, or like to buy talent and put them together, right? I think there are some interesting call out in that one. It's the perspective of one person, right? So it's only one part of the truth. We shouldn't judge the whole adventure of based on the interview of one person. But I think it's interesting to see there was the intent to challenge Steam. And I think it's very difficult to challenge a non-public listed company that has enough money to function and that has no interest to milk their players, right? Because you don't have the same the same weapons, right? When you have shareholders, you have constraint that you don't have when you are private. So it's like there's no battle possible somehow, unless Gabe falls off a cliff or something happen, and then people think it's a good idea to sell Valve to a company. to an investor. But other than that, I just feel like it's gonna be very difficult to challenge Steam, because Steam will always they make enough money, right? There are still only 300, 400 people maximum working
Yep.
there.
Yep.
It's been like that for ages. I don't see a reason for them to.
Manu, there is only one takeaway every single video game company needs to take away from Steam, which is player first. And I remember when I was working at EA, we had that mantra, but our behavior was not that. Anything but that, which is unfortunate. But I think that's my takeaway. Like, be human, and build something for the players, not against them, not to exploit them. But it's interesting. I'll just read this headline because we missed to do this for this specific item, which is Amazon tried to beat Steam, but despite being 250 times bigger, is still lost. Okay. I will move over to the rumors then. So we already spoke about Niantic, but I will move over to the second one, which is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 remake will reportedly show drop this summer. They did release Tony Hawk 1 to, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. Maybe more than 3 at this point.
I think it was more like, well, for once I have a rumor that's still a rumor and not been announced. So I just put it there. Other than that, I think, yeah, it's cool. I think it's 2020 it was released.
Yep.
Yeah. On all
Isn't
platforms.
Skate releasing this year as well? I think we spoke about that a while ago.
I'm just thinking, it's still
remember when we had
beta tested, right? But I don't think there has been there is an insider skew. Yes.
Manu, do you remember when these extreme sports games were very popular? SSX, Tony Hawk, but I feel like that genre of type of games disappeared, or are we the ones who are not keeping up with the kids these days?
And play that in Fortnite, right?
Fair enough.
I mean, no, not really. Or in Roblox, I'm sure there are like skateboard simulators in Roblox.
Yes.
I personally don't think that the Gen Z is big on skateboarding, to be honest. It's not easy to skateboard with a phone, so I don't think it's very popular. What I would say is, damn it, I had something to say. You have Steep.
What's that?
Ubisoft, the ski game, you know Steep. And then you have Rider Republic. So I would say, but these are kind of niche games. These are become like sandboxes. And it's a good sandbox, right? But I think maybe people are not that much interested, or only a certain part of the audience is interested in these kind of games.
This looks pretty beautiful, by the way, and I'm showing Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game in a niche market. Let's put it that way. If you are not interested in skiing, if you are not interested in racing or in doing this,
this is beautiful.
Figure, the artistic figure. But let's be honest, Skate, Tony Hawk, I'm not sure they sold 20 million units neither. We just have good nostalgic memory because it was fun and some people were playing that. But I'm not sure these are the GTA of the past neither.
But I think, I mean, to that point, back in the day, we didn't have that many options. So and I wasn't a skater at all, but I probably put like 20, 30 hours into Pro Hawk. Okay, I'll move over to the numbers. And I'm confused about this one, so you'll have to tell me why I should not be confused. But Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 does the business for Embracer as it nears 2 million copies sold. Are they saying that this is a big deal for Embracer? Because 2 million copies is not that much.
2 weeks, it's good.
Now I see.
It just started, right? The game was released 2 weeks ago. It did 1 million week 1, 1 million week 2. I think if you go to the Steam chart, they are number 12. They had a maximum of 250,000 players, still holding strong after 1 week. Yep. So a good start, a good game, good quality. even if it's kind of a Skyrim without the magic. So a little bit more realistic, but not that much. Very high ranking. So I think, I mean, in these dark days, when you have a game selling 2 million units, let's not forget that Dragon Age did 1.5 last year.
Yep.
Dragon Age did 1.5 in a quarter of release, right? And this game does 2 million in 2 weeks, and it's also an RPG.
Yeah.
I
I mean, that makes a lot of sense when you put it in that context. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially, by the way, when you have this brand that has been going on for plus 10 years, right? And then you compare it to...
Alan Wake 2 has only sold 3 million units.
Okay.
But let's not forget that in our time, full game selling more than 5 million units becomes an exception. Yeah.
I'm hoping...
Single player game. 5 million units, just name them in the last few years, right?
Yeah, there are very few that are, I mean, the ones that come to mind that go over the 10 million mark are usually the Sony exclusives, like the Spider-Mans, the Uncharted.
Absolutely. Yeah. But not the RPGs, not that much, right?
No. Okay. I'll move over to the second item on the numbers. Pacific Drive sales top 1 million, and I don't have a link here, but I can search for something. So don't worry about that. We'll get to it. Here we go. I'll share the screen. So Pacific Drive, tell us what is that game?
It's more than driving adventure game somehow. I don't know. Sometimes when interesting games and concepts are successful, I like to mention that. And I think it's it's on the Game Pass. You're basically it's kind of a world with some anomalies, and you scrap material, you build stuff, you improve your car, you explore further. So a bit like if you were in a Chernobyl kind of zone with weird stuff happening. Like just a successful indie game. Let's put it that way.
And what's interesting with this game is that the car is like Frankenstein. It's like it's the character basically.
It's scavenge, right? So you're a scavenger in a zone with a like strange thing happening based on radiation and things like that.
That's amazing. That's actually a game I should put on the list to try out. I'll move over to the next item, which is related to Ubisoft again. Their revenue declined 31.4% to 990 million euros, I should say. I know that both you and David were very positive about the next Assassin's Creed. And is that correct? Maybe I sorry, don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but somebody was positive on that game. What's your take? Like, will that move the needle in any shape or form for Ubisoft?
It better does. It's the last jewel on the crown, right? When you look at different perspective, the big one, like the triple A, the quadruple A. Okay, let's see what happens with Rainbow Six Siege because it's still around, and we talk about X earlier. Other than that, there is so much pressure, right? They cannot go wrong. They say they're still confident to release that in March. I'm really surprised that they had to say that it's not like a given and there's no discussion anymore. So we will know within a month how it is.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is that it will be a good Assassin's Creed, but it will still be an Assassin's Creed, right? It's not gonna change completely. But it could be a successful one, yes. But the problem is they don't have as many legs as they would like to support their business. Or they have like smaller one, niche one, like Anno games, for example, or some other IP they have in their portfolio. So now they are really balancing on one big one, which is Assassin's Creed.
Fair enough. Let's move over to the next item then, which is Starbreeze, the studio behind Payday 3. They see the sales plummet for that game, but studio calls the year a successful one. I know they recently went through they also had some layoffs, I believe, this year or last year, or maybe even both. So it says here their net sales for 2024 fell by 70% compared to the year previous. But are there any thoughts about Starbreeze? I feel like Starbreeze is a very weird studio that has gone through several.
Life.
Yes.
Yeah. They really struggle with Payday 3, right? So this is a typical example. What do you do with your live service game? Do you do a number 3, or do you keep the two everlasting? And they tried, they launched a new one. They tried, it didn't hit the mark at all for some reason. They had a lot of backlash back then, and I think is still the hangover of that. Just as simple as that. And I think players are on Payday 2 more than Payday 3. I think Payday 3 performance was really. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Nobody's playing it anymore, basically, right?
Yeah, it's very flat. I know that on console it has a bigger user base, but I've always been confused. I mean, Starbreeze initially they tried to do that VR investment. That was maybe 6-7 years ago. I lost a lot of money on that, by the way. But it just seems like, okay, we have this brand and this game that people love, and if you had just put like 20-30 people on it and just let it live its own thing and do its own thing, I feel like what the numbers that we looked at just now on Payday 2 could have been easily 5 times more if they had just given it more love, so to say. But it's
I don't know precisely what happened. I think they are still around, right? So I remember playing Chronicles of Riddick many years ago, which was an incredible single player game. To be honest, yes.
Well, all those people, Manu, that made that game are now at Machine Games, which is Indiana Jones.
Okay, wow, interesting. Yeah, okay, wow, that's really cool. Now, I think the question is whether is there a space for Payday in our world, right? Is there a space for this kind of bank heist, or has this been people have moved to GTA Online to do that kind of game? Yeah, I think that's the question. How much can they become the day by daylight of heist games, right? Because Day by Daylight is doing quite well. They do all this collaboration. They constantly refresh the game. Maybe not the gameplay, but at least the different protagonists. So is there something for Payday? Is there something for Payday like GTA doesn't have licensing, right? They don't have the cars. They don't have, I think, the weapons and things like that. Is there a space for Payday to be ready to go heavy on collaboration more than what GTA is?
Yeah, I think they did. I feel like they did some collaboration back in the day.
Is there more, right? Maybe there is more. I'm sure they did, but maybe there is. That's their angle. Right?
Yes, and I just wanted to show this, which is like, hey, if anybody's listening and you want to buy Payday, I mean, you can probably close down the entire company. Just take Payday. You can do that for $30 million, which is not that not that much. So that's an option.
I think about
think about that one a bit. Okay, then we have the final item on the list, which brings us back to Embracer. Embracer sales dropped 22% to $1.5 billion. 200 or roughly 300 million debt remains.
So let's look at the numbers. PC and console games, it's $242 million, right?
Okay.
And if you look at 2 million units of Kingdom Come Deliverance at maybe $35 net, that's 60 million. So I think it's significant for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's just that's really helpful. Oh no, wait, go. Sorry, maybe I made a mistake. For the 9 months and then above. Oh yes, that was the quarter. So okay, they do roughly 900 million per year. So if a game like Kingdom Come can bring an additional 10 million revenue, that's kind of that stays significant.
Absolutely. Do you, by the way, I mean, we would talk about Embracer specifically. we haven't heard a lot of big news about Embracer in terms of shakeups. How stable is Embracer, do we think, these days?
I think they are still working on the reorganization of all their IPs and studios and things like that. I think they've already made a few moves. I think they might be talks about splitting. I don't know. I don't know exactly what is going to happen, but I think yes, they're readjusting their portfolio, right?
Do we know why this happened, by the way? This is in February. There's a big drop.
That's when their earnings appear, right?
Now I see. Okay. Then, with that being said, we have reached the end of the show today. Anything else you'd like to talk about or mention, or?
No, I think we're good.
We're good. I guess I always say this. I hate saying this, obviously, but of course, any support you can provide us, we'd really appreciate that. The liking, the sharing, that type of stuff. You can find us on guysweekly.substack.com. Please subscribe, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you so much, Manu, for joining.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.